separatists, neo-republicans, Gorman Front, human cultists, sectorists, partisan alliance, galaxy partitions. They're all lost. Lost. Welcome to Voice of the Fat Mantis and my review of Episode 8 of Andor. Coming at you from Disney Plus, Star Wars continues to hammer out this incredibly slow-moving treasure. It is a gem in the world of Star Wars. It is just a shame that there are some times I either want to blow my brains out. Now that's an exaggeration. Really, I just end up checking my phone. But a show shouldn't do that ultimately. So I have a lot of compliments to give the show, but ultimately a lot of complaints. And of course, this show or episode is dominated by one guest appearance that we are so glad we finally have. Sir Forrest Whitaker has returned as Saw Gerrera, one of my favorite Star Wars characters and one of my favorite psychos. That's right, my line from the beginning right there. I was trying to do justice of a line that was delivered so well by Forrest Whitaker. He seemed like such a psycho. But he was a psycho with passion, so I respect him, you know what I mean? Before we get any further, I would love it if you smash that like button, give me a subscribe, and keep tuning in to Voice of the Fat Mantis. Moving along, this episode is called Narkina 5, and we get to see what the prison system of the Imperials are. And like everything else, it's unfair, savage, and just bizarre. Even the beginning, when Cassian's being processed and he's being sent, they ask you where your homeworld are. And when you tell them, they then suddenly send you to a ship to planets you've never even heard of that I guess are remotely in the over sector of your homeworld. It's just a bizarre system. But the bureaucracy that this show shows about how the Empire is just a horrible bureaucracy that crushes the human spirit is crazy. All the penal colony scenes are utterly amazing. I will say this, I would have trimmed the fat on that. There's a lot of trimming. I would just trim like it was a Christmas tree. And some scenes in the prison as well, not entire scenes, but chunks of them. For instance, when he gets there and he meets his fellow cohorts, the people at his table, it's a work camp. We are introduced to all these people's names, and I have a feeling similar to the rebel group he did a job with on Aldhani, it's not necessary to know these people or their backstories. It's completely pointless because they'll be dead in an episode or gone in an episode. So what ultimately is the point? There was a lot of lag in this episode and it really annoyed me. However, it's interesting that our man Andy Serkis, who I think might stay in the series, I mean, why have such a big name if you're going to just kill him off or something? It plays Kino Loy, guy who's, you know, he's like Murtaugh from Lethal Weapon. He is getting too old for this. And he just can't wait to get out of prison. Of course, everything is just unfair, and I have a feeling that before too long, they are going to increase his prison sentence. It's funny, as a work labor thing, you have a tab in your cell. It's a running tab of the credits you owe the Imperials. And sometimes they'll arbitrarily add money to the tab that you owe them, forcing you to essentially stay longer. It depends on how productive you are, determines if you can shorten your prison sentence. I love it. In a diabolical way. It's truly evil. That is some evil. Moving on to Dedra Meero. Remember, I have the running theory that she could possibly be Andor's sister. She is finally crossed paths with our man Solar Khan. However, they actually don't team up. She actually browbeats him, points out that he's a horrible commander, he did bad at his job, and that he sucks. It sucks to be him. And I gotta say, there was a lot of scenes in the ISB headquarters and the way they do things. I love every scene in there. I love just seeing the way the Empire does things. This circular table where they're discussing internal security, AAA, they're like the SS, and like how they're gonna govern these people in harsh and cruel ways is fun. Imperials are fun. Let's just face it. They're actually fun. You know, they get too much hate. I mean, for racists and fascists, they get a lot of hate. I see that I'm just digging deep, so I'm just going to move on to the next category. That she could still be the sister, still in play. Why? On Ferrix, she shows up there in the investigation of Cassian Andor, and once again, she is very dedicated to catching this Cassian Andor. Don't worry, he's in prison by a false name. She gets there, and she's arresting all sorts of people, and when she gets Bix Colleen, when she brings her in to the interrogation room, she says, "Hello, Bix." Seems like it could be a little friendly. You are meant to be intimidated, but we don't see the end product of the interrogation. Now, I could be wrong. She could just be beating the hell out of her and doing horrible things. We will find out next episode, but I think it's really shady. trimming the fat. Is on Phoenix, there's all these additional scenes that we don't need. The only scenes we need to know is that Andor's mom is sick. Bix radios him at the expense of her own safety, and she is imprisoned. Oh, and Blondie is on the planet. Other than that, we really don't need to know anything. But they added a scene where Blondie is having problems with her girlfriend. The thing is, the characters are in so little of the show, I don't really care about their relationship. Was this attempt to sneak in LGBT representation just so they can flaunt it? They could be like, we had a side character who was a lesbian, look at us. Inclusive. If that is what they're doing a poor job of it. I don't care about her love life. I don't care that her lover cares more about the rebellion than her, and we're supposed to feel sad for her. It's a wasted scene. Just as most scenes on Coruscant end up being wasted scenes. I could not believe what I was seeing. Mon Mothma has not done anything since the first episode. There are little scenes of her just being a rich, and I'm just like, I don't like seeing these people in real life. Like when you go to Target, in this egalitarian world we live in, we have to be around wealthy people and watch them be wealthy and disgusting. It's not pleasant to see in the real world. I certainly don't want to see it in Star Wars. She's uber wealthy. She's uber boring. She watches C-SPAN all damn day. And I have no use for it. I have no bloody use for it. Anyway, then we go on to Luthen. Now, Luthen has some good scenes where you can see he's really worried about Cassian Andor and what Cassian Andor knows. Did he order the hit on Cassian Andor, or is he trying to warn him, or what's going on there? I do like it, but they do waste a lot of our time. There's a ton of time waste in that scene, but finally he does something. He goes off world and he goes to Onderon, where he finds in the very cold caverns Sir Forrest Whitaker, and he appears and he is Saw Gerrera. Saw Gerrera with legs and does not have a breathing tubes. More on that in a minute. But so he's there and they have this amazing conversation. Saw Gerrera is a sight to behold every time he's on the camera. I love his particular brand of crazy. He is the Marlon Brando of Star Wars, and I love it. And he gives a ridiculously insane, deranged rant. He was talking about one thing and he goes on this rant. You can tell the mind of an angry psycho is unleashed as he points out all the different factions that are not working with each other but hate the Empire. This basically is before the Rebel Alliance. And they come down to the Separatists, the Human Cultists, the Gorman Front, the Neo-Republicans, the Sectorists, Partisan Alliance, and the Galaxy Partitionists. This is fascinating. I would love to see stories about all of them and what they're doing, but I understand that when they come together, they're called the Rebel Alliance, and that's why it's an alliance. It's an alliance of different groups that the only thing they can agree on is that they hate the Empire and they want them out. But he literally goes on a rant saying that they're all lost and only him and his partisans understand the truth. They understand everyone else is a fool. Okay, cool. I dig it, man. I really like it, man. I really love seeing him. Now, speaking of Forrest Whitaker, his character's deformities and all these things like that. So, there was a written but never played scene about the origins of Forrest Whitaker's Saw Gerrera in Rogue One. It never got to filming. Originally, the Vader popping his lightsaber and slaughtering a bunch of people was originally supposed to be right after Saw Gerrera abandons a young, what is this girl's name? Jyn Erso. He puts her down in the well and he's like, bah, you need to get lost. Kicks her out because he's going on a mission that's very dangerous. He doesn't want her involved. And when he goes there, it's an attempt to assassinate Vader. Instead, he's cutting people down. And in it, he cuts Saw Gerrera in half. Which is why later on in the movie, when we see him, he has a breathing tube, tanks, and he has droid legs. Because he's only half a man. Now, that was cut for the idea of making that scene at the end where they prefer to make you wait to see Vader pop his lightsaber, which was an amazing scene. It's straight out of a horror movie where he's cutting everyone in the hallway. I think you know the scene that I'm talking about. And later on, that inspired the Luke Skywalker scene where he's cutting down the robots with his green lightsaber. All amazing stuff. So it didn't make it, but I wonder if we're going to see it or some sort of that in this series. I might be asking a lot because this series does a great job of showing us the ins and outs of Star Wars universe that they never have time to show us in movies. But however, they don't do much for awe-inspiring stuff. There really has only been one awe-inspiring episode, and that was episode 6, the bank heist episode. So I am a little worried about that, but I would love to see if they're going to do this in this series. If not this season, maybe next season, since it is a guaranteed another 12-episode run. Hopefully they'll trim the fat. Speaking of trimming the fat, I really do believe that this show could be cut down to about 2/3 its size. There are a lot of scenes that mean nothing, particularly Mon Mothma is just living her best life as a rich woman on Coruscant. You get nothing out of it. I do not care. I may have liked the idea where they take those worms and they put them in the water and they dissolve and they make it alcoholic. I love that. That's a cool Star Wars tidbit. But other than that, I've gotten nothing from that. Just as there's like a lot of things, like I said, you meet a lot of characters and they have like these little character moments. They're just like, man, I used to be an Imperial soldier until blah, 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 giving their exposition, and then they're dead next episode. I don't need it. I really don't need it. And this is why Andor is lost in his own show. He should be dominating the airwaves, not other people. And I think if we slimmed it down, I honestly think you could take episodes 1 and 2, make them an episode. Take episodes 4 and 5, make them a single episode. And it is very possible that this episode could have been merged with last episode if you just took out unnecessary scenes. But what do you think about it? Please let me know down in the comments. What do you think my ongoing theory that Miro is his sister? Please let me know. Remember to smash that like button, give me a subscribe, and keep tuning in to Voice of the Fat Mantis for more Star Wars updates, interviews, analysis, and all the nerd news that's fit to print. Until next time, ciao for now.